Well, good evening, and thank you for attending our budget workshop session number 1. Special thank you going into the school year to Senator Brauch and Assemblymember Lunsford, as well as other officials in the Legislative Assembly and Senate for making our request for a 3% increase come to fruition. Special thank you again to our community for petitioning and fighting for fair amount of aid coming back to us. So far, we are close to what we requested, and I have to share that our local senator and assembly member has been extraordinary in supporting our endeavor there. So thank you. So tonight we will talk about our budget guidelines. We'll go through our timeline and process, our major components of our revenue, tax cap, levy, and state aid, which are our 3 biggest components. Our executive budget highlights, we'll go through briefly state aid and the executive budget overview, a review forecast, and future work and meetings. Our budget process starts in the fall with our district planning team, which is comprised of all stakeholders, from parents with students, parents without students. All units are represented at the table within the district. And we begin the process of looking at annually what we're facing and where our priorities need to lie. And this is our first year in a while where we entered the year looking at a deficit in our budget. And as we look forward, we're looking at another deficit, but not hopefully as significant. So as we meet, we talk about the current times and what's happening. And essentially, as we started our meetings this year, to put it really bluntly, we acknowledge that we have more money going out and then more money coming in. And that is a result of a lot of things. A lot of it is related to inflation. A lot of it is related to tax cap. A lot of it is related to health costs. And the cost of doing business, which I think we all have felt. So as we sat down to develop our guidelines, we made it a priority to make sure that we looked at students first and made sure that any kind of budget adjustments that we need to make were aligned to student achievement and student well-being. And so you can see here what we hope to do in this budget relative to our students. And then knowing that any great organization has to have continuous improvement and professional development annually and ongoing, we felt that these were the areas that were extraordinarily important for us. What we're seeing and what we have seen recently, especially coming off of COVID, is a wide range of learners in our classroom and how we need to continue our improvement relative to meeting the needs of all of our students. The changes that you'll see in our budget guidelines will come in the next couple slides. One of them is around engaging in thoughtful short and long-term range financial planning. We knew going into this year, before our foundation aid in the first round came in, that we were going to be in a significant budget gap. And so we worked hard to see what we could do behind the scenes to reduce that through attrition, primarily through retirement. And so we made significant cuts there, but we're also looking at what this may look like into the future, especially given the increased cost of healthcare. We've done a great job, and I want to thank Rachel and Terry and Mike around our use of federal funds and the discontinuance of federal funds and how we're able to decide what continues and what falls off, which we've done. while also going successfully through an audit around our use of federal funds. But that certainly was a significant amount of income that has come off our table, which is part of, a small part of the reason why we're looking at a deficit this year. We also added to our budget guidelines engaging legislators to increase New York State Foundation aid. Mike Vespi, our assistant business official, and I went to Albany. We met with several leaders. Again, thank you to Senator Brauch and Assemblywoman Lunsford for championing our desire and our need for more aid. If you recall last year, we talked about, I think we received about $1.75 additional dollars per student, or $10,000 total. This year, we are in a much better position, cutting our deficit in half. So again, we thank them. The other areas that we adjusted in the budget guidelines, particular to this year, was the use of our reserve accounts. So we did take more money out of our reserve accounts this year, and to offset the levy and to offset the deficit, and did that in conjunction with attrition and reductions and looking at towards our legislators to help support our levels of funding, which has been fruitful. So our budget guidelines were a little bit different this year. I would just note that the major change in our budget guidelines are around the financial piece and not the student piece, and how do we continue our great work forward, knowing that we have a deficit going into the budget cycle, and knowing that that budget will carry, that deficit may carry forward to the following years. So we, over the process of our budget workshops, we'll talk through that. We'll continue those discussions throughout this year and next year, but we have good plans, and we have a program that will allow for our students to continue with their success. So you'll see that along the way, and want to again thank our business officials for working so hard on this. I'm going to turn over to Mike Vespi to talk about our budget timeline and process and move us forward.
Thanks so much, Mike, for getting us started. It's always, I always say a brief word about the fact that we have such a collaborative process with the district planning team and the budget guidelines that guide that process. So that is very, very important. As we go forward and we look at the facts and figures, we look and reflect about, how this has an impact on our programs and services for kids. So very, very important. The budget process really begins at the turn of the fiscal year. So I'll start working on a budget forecast, a long-range financial plan over the summer, and provide guidance and make adjustments from the previous year, really in that August, September timeframe, and then we start talking preliminary budget in October. In January, we're able to update the revenue projections. And as of late, based on the challenges we've had with foundation aid, the budget is really dictated by the revenue that we can, kind of look at going forward from a forecast standpoint. So January is a big date, and obviously now in February, I'm going to provide the tax cap and the state aid update, which really, makes up the majority of our revenue. So as we go forward, we've got a workshop later this month, and then we'll put everything together in that March timeframe. And so we're right on schedule. I'll characterize a little bit that the executive budget, like it was 2 years ago, seems more positive from the start. So we hope that it can go up from here from a legislative budget perspective and might lead to an on-time budget. But we haven't seen one of those in a while. But we look for that April 1st. And then, of course, the vote, the budget hearing and the vote in May. So you've seen this before where our two main revenue sources are the tax levy and state aid. I'll highlight some of the other revenue sources later in the presentation that actually are significant in terms of increases for sales tax, which is unique, to only a few counties in the state, and then interest earnings. So now the tax levy accounts for 70% of the district's revenue, and obviously the balance of the revenue is capped by the property tax cap. There was some fruitful discussion on Saturday at the legislative breakfast about the 2%. So when I get to the tax cap slide, we'll look at the, literally the third year in a row that's having a negative impact in terms of our revenue. I always include the calculations, and I probably put too much information on the presentation in terms of understanding it, but it's good to understand how these complex factors lead to the actual tax cap itself. So again, the calculation for the tax cap starts with the prior year tax levy. It's multiplied by a growth factor that reflects overall economic growth in the area along with development. So you can see that tax-based growth factor actually went down a little bit this year. It's adjusted by any pilot payment in lieu of tax agreements that we have, and then prior year exemptions. And then the 2% is capped, right? So that's where we get that, the notion of the 2% tax cap. And that figure, again, is higher than 2%, but it's capped at 2%. We then subtract the pilots from the coming year. We have 1 year left on a pilot. I highlighted that in a memo that I shared. So we'll see that number go down actually next year, which will be a positive. And then I have to look at the debt service that we have, offset by any building aid on capital projects. So that's why when we look at our long-range facilities plan, and we looked at the planned debt service that goes along with it, it's so important to take a look at that. And later I'll highlight how our wealth ratios impact building aid ratios. So this all ties together because, as our wealth increases and our building aid is impacted by that, then it'll impact this exclusion that you see in yellow, the 5579 number. So when we put it through this convoluted calculation spreadsheet and then have Terry and Rachel check and double check to make sure that we're in rough agreement in terms of the cap, it ends up at 2.34%. So that's less than it was last year. So that means we can raise fewer dollars in revenue for this budget based on the exclusion differences. And mainly what you see there is you see additional building aid that's going to come online for a final cost report from a previous capital project that was paid with cash. And that's great that we don't have any finance or debt service that goes with it, but now we have a revenue that just comes on that $6 million cash project that's been finished. And then we have phase 1 of our current capital project that comes on with a little bit of building aid. So that caused our tax cap percentage to go down. So if you look at the tax levy history, you can see that there's been steady growth. But you remember in 2003 and then to 2024 there, you see that was relatively flat. And that was because we had retiring debt fall off. And then you can see some slight increases projected going forward. These are the tax cap inflation factors. So you can see, again, this is the 4th year in a row, back to 22-23, 4.7, 8, 4.12, and then 2.95 this year. So this chart kind of shows the impact where we're restricted at that 2% when, in fact, inflation's been much higher. And, as Mr. Pirro alluded to, that's starting to erode our purchasing power And we're also starting to see the inflationary factors creep into the benefits market. And we're going to see huge increase in health insurance that you'll hear much more about as we move through the budget process. So I'm a little concerned about the inflationary factors in a different area this year. I like to show this now. This can change, but I do like to show a forecast of what does our main revenue source look like going forward. And you can see from 2 years ago, we're going to be back in a similar situation in 27, 28 without either adjustments to debt service or planning to add a capital project or making those adjustments to the debt service, right? So those are our options. So I'm concerned going forward that based on the factors that are very level in terms of predictability as far as the debt service schedule, it would result in a bond anticipation note being shifted to a bond, which would result in the payment of that, the payoff of that, which would really adversely impact our budget in 27, 28. So this is something that even though I'm here talking about 25, 26 that we haven't even, approved yet, I'm looking 3 steps down the road to see how do the decisions that we make now impact the future budget. So it is something that we have to be cognizant of, but again, can change.
Mike, I would just add, it's an interesting conundrum. We'll talk about this at our district planning team when we are in a deficit mode or having to make reductions. Why would you possibly even think about a capital project? And part of the reason we need to think about a capital project, another one coming up, and we should be doing this every 5 years, is to maintain our facilities and thinking about our air, our water, all of our infrastructure, our roofs, et cetera, is that it will allow us an opportunity to have that level debt experience, which is incorporated into the tax cap calculation, which could then bring that 0.52 back to closer to 2%. Yeah. And so not only are we marrying two things that could be opposed, but we're bringing them together to help us in our favor. So we do know that we need more capital projects. We do know that we can't sustain a 0.5% increase during the year. So part of our conversation moving forward with the board will be around what can we do 2 years from now to prevent this from happening, while at the same time increasing the infrastructure, benefiting the infrastructure of our facilities.
Yeah, and I like the fact that when we look at our long-range facilities plan, it's been created based on the needs of the district and student impact, as opposed to the formula itself. Because I think if you went back to when the formula was enacted, there was a disconnect between how these factors could possibly impact our main funding source in the future, based on capital project planning. I don't think that was ever the intention. But again, it's good on an annual basis for us to visit how those factors do in fact impact the tax cap. And I put, the complicated sheets on there, but this is very difficult to explain, as we go through the process of calculating it. So just in general, jumping up out of the weeds here, CPI continues to diminish the revenue power of school districts. The capital exclusion, I think we've explained how the debt service financing impacts, and then what my concern is in a couple of budgets from now. The calculation of the tax cap will be finalized. Actually, Terry and I we submitted it just before we came into the meeting, the round one, knowing that we can modify it if any of the factors change between now and March 1st. So that has been submitted. So just in general, some highlights of the executive budget proposal. I like to just review them. There's a state, but 3.6% increase overall in the state budget. There's a fiscal year surplus. So I think that's why you're starting to hear, some of the information about refunds to families. But then right under it, is projected gaps in the next 2 years. So we look at that and say, great, we survived this year, but what does the future look like? Because as we know, foundation aid will be tied, and support to education will be tied to the general fund budget for the state. School aid increase about 4.81% so far, but $1.55 billion when you exclude UPK. And just again today, it's not that we have a program, but Monroe County business officials talking about how challenging it is based on what the state does provide to fund a UPK program. It's very challenging in terms of what's provided and try to run. Foundation aid, I agree with Mr. Pirro. We went to Albany, and I think our legislative efforts really paid off, and we're pleased to say that there was an increase overall in foundation aid. There was no adjustments to CPI. There's this notion that the 2000 census poverty data is going to be replaced with small area income and poverty estimates, and then free and reduced lunch count with economically disadvantaged data. So we're going to dig deeper into that. And then the minimum increase of 2% for all districts, we advocated for 3, we'd like to see 3, especially when you see CPI at 2.95. So overall, I included a synopsis of the statewide increases, and you can see an overall decrease in building aid. And there's been every effort to slow down that process and approval. So we're very fortunate that our capital project's approved and moving forward. In fact, in a couple board meetings, you'll see bids, hopefully for a bid award for our current capital project. And then you can see increases there. Keep an eye on that transportation aid increase, especially as the discussion over electric buses continues, to look at that. Even without that, you see increases as we go forward. Just some other things that I'm just going to talk about them, not get into them, but obviously the cell phone ban, distraction-free learning. I think what's interesting about it is that it creates additional reporting for administration, so we've got to keep an eye on what does that mean. Dual enrollment, so there's been a consolidation of some programs. Universal school meals. So this would be for anyone that's not free and reduced on the federal level, at the state level. It's a proposal. We don't know if it's going to pass. If it passes, we've talked about a process here where we'd have to evaluate our program since we're not part of that program and what that timeline would look like from an appropriateness standpoint. So again, I think there might be some questions around that, but if in fact this does pass, it would take us probably at least 12 to 18 months to do an evaluation, a comprehensive evaluation about what that would look like and how it would change our participation in school lunch. So we're prepared to do it. It's not something that we could pull off immediately. We'd have to really, put some thoughtful planning behind it.
Mike,
did you want to?
Well, our belief is that if we did go into the universal school meals, it would also entail several hiring positions across our 9 buildings.
Yeah, at least 1 to 2 positions in each building. Yeah. School aid database freeze, which is something we look at. So to freeze at current levels, everything gets adjusted from an updated database run for the legislative budget. So hopefully that gets rejected. And then no changes on zero emission bus implementation, some of these other issues that we continue to talk about. So it's we've got to move forward with what's on the books in terms of some of these. I like ASBO New York's version of the foundation aid run that you see here, because the real number is first as opposed to the official state aid runs, and that's a 1.84% increase. So what you'll see in the media is a 7.55% increase because it includes over $2 million in UPK money that we're not going to utilize, right? So this matches the media, and then I do a spreadsheet to kind of summarize this. Less universal pre-K, there's the 1.84%. So you can see foundation aid at 558, that's a 2.65% year over year. We'd like to see that at 3, but we're very happy and pleased that it's not 10,000 like it was last year. BOCES aid is always down on the initial run that you see here because we do year-end projects and then end up spending more. And remember, we adjusted to spend more in technology up front. So that's an estimate that that's going to change. And then transportation aid, it's no secret that we found a calculation that needed to be adjusted, which drove more transportation aid to the district. So when I look at budgeted state aid compared to the executive budget, we're in even better shape because of our conservative budgeting practices. That's going to help us offset the budget-to-budget increases that we're looking at. That's going to help offset because we budgeted state aid very conservatively. So when I look at a budget-to-budget analysis, it's about a 5.73% increase. So that's very, very positive news out of the gate here. I'm not going to go into the foundation aid history because I know you've heard it for a long time, but just a reminder, we waited very, very patiently, and we've got that 556 increase in budgeted foundation aid year over year. So that's much better than the 10,000. And you can see that we planed off in the previous year, and then you'll see that number slightly increase when I show the slide a year from now. So you can see from 23, 24, 24, 25, you can see how that planed off. And actually in this chart shows that we lost a little bit, and that's because foundation aid is always adjusted by some minor factors after the fact from when it's trued up. Here's our combined wealth ratio. This is a measurement of income wealth and property wealth in the district. And when this ratio goes higher, so you saw that it was coming down, when it goes higher, that means less building aid and less some of the aid ratios, because the notion is the wealthier that the district is in property and income wealth, then the more that the local taxpayer can support, right, from a local funding source, which that local funding source is capped by the tax cap. So, but I at least wanted you to see that these wealth factors have gone up, which has led to reductions in our building aid and prospective building aid ratios and transportation aid. So you can see building aid went from 0.749 to 0.726. And when you're looking at a reimbursement of roughly $8 million, that small amount can be significant. So I never do this early, but I thought it would be relevant just to say that based on our forecast and where we were a year ago to where we are now, we've had some positive changes, right? At a 2.34% property tax cap, we can generate about $2.6 million. Sales tax, we hope to get another $300,000 year over year. Interest earnings, when I brief you on the treasurer's reports that Rachel puts together, and again, Rachel's been doing an absolutely outstanding job investing our money with the assistance of 3+1. We have closed accounts, reduced expenses, and we're just on an incredible run in terms of maximizing our interest earnings and cash flow. I'm confident that when we met, we could increase this fiscal number to 1.5, although we did have a little bit of friendly competition and discussion about how high we could go here. Rachel was a little more on the conservative side, I think, but we talked her into letting us go a little bit higher as we go forward. So we've got the confidence that she's going to pull it off. And then the state sources overall, including the money that we get on the urban suburban. What I would call your attention to and what jumps out on this page is the 25% increase in appropriated fund balance and reserves. Why? Because those aren't sustaining revenue sources. That's using our savings account to basically fill a budget gap. It's a short-term solution. And we've pledged to use $600,000 more to do that. So normally our budget would roll over at about 4 to 4.5%. We're at about 3.87%, and as Mr. Pirro alluded, we still have a budget gap that we have to close because we pretty much know right now that this is going to be the high water mark for our revenue. The legislative proposal may provide a little bit more in foundation aid, but none of those other factors are really going to change significantly, other than maybe a BOCES update. So we still have, we have limitations. And so that's why when we look at our fiscal challenge and we know already where our revenue exists, we've got to live within the revenue we know we're going to have. And quite frankly, I don't know, just in terms of forecasting going forward, other than the ability to use more appropriate fund balance and reserves, I don't know how much these other factors are really going to go up in future years in terms of new revenue sources. So even though we're very happy about the state aid increase, the foundation aid increase of, 580,000, that's still way below what we need to sustain a revenue increase to roll our regular budget over. So we're going to continue to be challenged as it pertains to budget development based on these revenue limitations. So in the short term, we can offset it with fund balance and reserves, but that's not a long-term solution. So you can kind of see with this early revenue forecast, what our challenges are. So what do we need to do next? We've got to continue to work to close that budget deficit. We're right around that 600,000 to 700,000 range. We've got to solidify tax cap components going forward. Again, I think we're in pretty good shape there. We've got to evaluate our staffing levels. And
Mike, if I could just pause you for a second there. As far as continue to evaluate staffing, that's correct. But we've been evaluating that since the financial forecasting has started this previous summer. So we have reduced our budget through a short-term retirement incentive, which helps us with about $600,000. We have also reduced 3 central office team positions, which brings us to around $300,000. We're working with our secondary principals. So at the high school, we're looking at class sizes, seeing what classes we need to run, who's retired, who do we need to replace. At the middle school, we're looking at what's mandated, what's not mandated. Similarly, we're looking at enrollment projections at the elementary school. We're looking at all units that are within our district as far as areas that we can reduce in order to not only close the budget for this year, but to minimize any impact for the following year. So staffing is significant.
Yeah, and it's been, I think, going back to, that early retirement incentive that we discussed and planning for those retirements, and I know, Sean, you're going to touch on that, has really led to some reductions in terms of breakage. So before we get to the presentation in March, we'll continue to evaluate BOCES services. We'll look to see what happens in the legislative budget with aid. And then really the one that Mr. Pirro highlighted earlier and that we're most concerned with was a 14% health insurance increase mid-year because that plan runs calendar year. So that was a little higher than anticipated, about 4% higher than anticipated. And we'll continue to...
Mike, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I know we'll talk about this more.
Yeah.
But if the health insurance didn't raise the 14% increase mid-year, we would look at a surplus this year. If it carried over from last year to this year, we would have no budget concerns at all. So
that's right.
As we look now and into the future in healthcare costs, that's going to be something that we're going to have to strategize.
Absolutely, and that's something that we're going to do a deeper dive into for the presentation in March. Yep. So again, I've kind of alluded to this. We've got the work session on the 25th, which each of the departments will go through, and we'll come back on the 11th with the undistributed budget. And then I think the other key aspect of the process is the final summary on the 13th with the budget vote. And then we should probably mention that the vote location is changing. So I know that we've put out a lot of information on that, but probably never too much information in terms of giving that notice.
Mike, I would just highlight that there's 2 dates in there, March 13th and April 3rd with district planning team. And those are the areas where we're going to have to come to conclusion on where we're going to shore up our budget. And so as we move forward, while we have a significant inroads towards our deficit, we still are looking at about $600,000 of reductions we're going to need to make. And those 2 meetings are the areas where we should be able to share with our district planning team where we feel it's the most prudent to make those reductions.
A lot of information. I think more information in this budget session, I think in terms of sharing in terms of where we stand on the budget and our revenue projections, definitely more precise, I think, given the situation. So, with that, we'll turn it over to any questions before we hand it off to Sean. Mike?
I have a question for you, Mike, and forgive me, because you might have answered this, but I was really looking at the tax cap forecast that you had put up there and looking at 27, 28, where we have that low percentage. And then moving forward from that, are those numbers assuming that we do the capital project at that time, the small, no?
No, so this is all based on the debt that we have, and, I've got a debt service schedule that goes out to 2040. Do you know what I mean? So it's anything that we have on the books now, forecast out into the future. It includes the projections of the current capital project that we have ongoing, but doesn't include any other future capital project.
Okay.
And that's what you do, is you update this based on the planning that we do for long-range facilities planning. That would have an impact, that new debt service schedule will have an impact on this. As well as if we work with our fiscal advisor to change any of those parameters that we're currently assuming. So, and that's why I put here, this is for information estimates only, but it's good to just look at what the impact could be based on what we know and have on the books right now. But yeah, it does not include doing something new. Yep, Dave.
Do you know what caused the change in that trend for the combined wealth ratio, and maybe if we think that's going to continue?
I do. It's really based on so it's your wealth and income ratio. So when you do your taxes and you select which school, your state taxes, and select which school district. So that's all tracked by location, and those factors are utilized in our state aid formulas. Yeah. So if it's going up, then it's a combination of wealth, income wealth, and property wealth, and there's some other factors that go into it, including attendance and daily attendance and some other factors that I could share with you more in the weeds. But yeah, I like to show that, because then people say, well, how does this wealth factor, it came up when we were down in Albany, what is your wealth factor and how does it impact? And Mike did a great job to say, in this area, our wealth is the highest in the area, but it's just a little bit above average. But we're tiered with districts that are 10 times wealthier in a different part of the state. So that's why it limits the amount of state support that we get. So it's directly tied to that. And so when we say that, well, we've got this foundation aid formula and we've got this Rockefeller study, there's a lot more work to do, because that study and that formula was put together 20 years ago, and it hasn't been looked at since. So these are some of the factors behind the scenes that impact our state aid. Great question. All right, super.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak about human resources, and I'd like to start with just an introduction to our team, which I think is important because half of the people on the slide are a year or less in their position. So we have Orlando Benzon, he's our Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Personnel. Tammy Vanderbilt is our Human Resources Assistant. Jill Adams, our Personnel Clerk, and Carol Vomberg is the District Receptionist and helps out with some of our sub-onboards. So areas of responsibility, I know you've seen this slide before. We touch a lot of areas. We're a small department, but we impact a lot of areas across the district. So personnel, staff hiring, onboarding, sectioning, contract negotiations, labor relations, and contract administration, leadership development, and the evaluation process for administrators and teachers. A lot of what we do, if you think back to 5 years ago, 6 years ago, pre-COVID, some of the things that we're doing, we've actually doubled the amount of work coming out of our office. So the number of onboards that we have, the number of processes for family medical leave, things like that. So a small department, but we certainly work hard. And I'm very proud of the efforts. What I'd like to share a bit about tonight is our department goals, because again, with a newer department coming together, it's important for us to figure out who we are as a department. I'll talk about budgeting, section and staffing, trends that we're seeing, some of the hiring aspects, and then negotiations. For this year, with a newer department and new staff, we decided that it was important for me to bring people together within our department and to create our own set of mission, vision, and values using the district's mission, vision, and values as kind of that touch point. So what we've done over the course of the fall, we have weekly meetings, and in those weekly meetings, we would unpack the district mission, vision, and values, and then talk about what does that mean for our department. So what we ended up creating over the course of weeks and months was our own mission statement. So we know the district's mission statement is about inspiring our students to be their best, do their best, and make a difference in the lives of others. For our department, for human resources, our fundamental purpose is hiring and retaining exceptional talent that is representative of our diverse school community. We provide comprehensive resources and guidance to meet personal and professional needs that foster a positive and productive workplace, ensuring a supportive environment for all. So it's our touch point. It brings value to the work that we do. And again, with new staff coming in, it's important to give that recognition to our fundamental purpose. When we think about our vision, if we could forecast 5 years, 10 years into the future, what would that look like? And again, unpacking the district's mission, vision, and figuring out what made sense for us, we came up with this statement. The Human Resources Department aims to be the premier destination for careers and education through pioneering innovative practices. We are committed to creating a supportive and adaptable environment ready to meet the evolving changes of the labor market. For our core values, we know what our core values are. All of our employees, when they are onboarded, we unpack core values, because what I say to folks at onboard is we want you to see these as not just who we are as far as your experience, but we want you to contribute to our core values. So what does that mean for human resources? Well, for student-centered, it's hiring staff that are student-centered and making sure that we're doing our due diligence with checking references. It's holding staff accountable when they are not behaving in a way that's student-centered. It's providing that ongoing staff training and support to better serve our students. Under a supportive environment for all, we believe that we are a department where people can share their concerns personally and professionally and get some guidance in relation to that. We stay positive, we encourage people and validate their feelings. We keep information confidential and only share information with those that need to know. We help employees navigate difficult situations, and then we share resources like the EAP, that's the Employee Assistance Program, and other benefits. Under continuous improvement, we seek efficiencies that will help us better manage processes. We leverage technology and support from BOCES and other vendors. Under progressive, We use research and best practices to guide decisions, and we use a systems thinking approach. We don't want to solve one problem while creating another problem. And then collaboration, we create purposeful time to have conversations within our department and across departments and buildings. We strive to break down barriers between departments. We believe we can rise together, and we understand that people are more invested when they are part of the decision-making process. So again, with new staff coming in, really coming together and figuring out who we are so we can work best together. I wanted to speak a little bit about automation because this is a major function for us this year. Currently, we use a product called Schoolfront, and that's for all of our applications. So when people apply to external postings, they will use Schoolfront, and they will supply us with a lot of information. And we use that for the interview process, but it really ends there. When people come into onboard with us, we spend about an hour or more in some cases just sitting and going through the paperwork, and a lot of that is writing the same information on different forms. So they write their personal information, their name, address on tax forms, on the 403B, on the I-9 form. There's a lot of time that's redundant, that's wasted during that onboard process. And using the Schoolfront onboard function, what our goal is to take that onboarding from an hour and reducing it by about 50%, because it'll automate the information that's already in the system and just populate it into those tax forms, into the 403B. So the time that they're spending with us in our department is more quality time. So we're talking about benefits. We're really talking more about our supportive environment and the things that we offer to our employees. So they don't leave with hand fatigue from writing, they leave with good information and feeling like they're part of the district. So just from a data standpoint, we've onboarded so far this year about 138 employees, and that's about 17 and a half days of just onboarding. And if we can cut that in half, we'll have more time to do other things that are higher leverage. Defining roles and responsibilities. So again, with new staff, who is doing what type of work and how are we restructuring that? So in my role, I oversee all the certificated staff. So those are our teachers, those are our administrators, and then the overall department oversight. For Orlando, he is doing work with civil service staff. So that's all of our support staff and supporting that DEI work. Tammy, our human resources assistant, she's processing FMLA, supporting the board packets, adding new staff to our HR systems, and then the contractual support. And then our personnel clerk does a lot with civil service, archives to BOCES. True story, when we were looking at some of our retirees and some of the documents that we've had in our department, we have files from employees that were born in the 1800s. It's time to purge those files and do some of that work. So Jill's been great with that. Managing the badge system, scheduling onboards, and acting as that HRA, that's human resource assistant backup, so we don't have that single point of failure. I'll talk a little bit about the budget so you can see the budget over a 5-year period. When we're looking at this year to what we're projecting for 2025 to 2026, it equates to about a 9.45% increase. And let me unpack that a little bit because you just heard Mike and Mike share about the budget constraints, and now I'm talking about a 9.45% increase. What we did, which Mike spoke about, the taking of 2 central office administrative positions, so coordinator of human resources and coordinator of equity and inclusivity, and combining those into one position. Now that position is a higher tiered position, so there is a premium for that salary, but overall the reduction when you look at not having that extra staff member, that's over a 6-figure savings. So it's about $88,000 in salary plus benefits plus the legacy cost. So as I say 9.45% increase, you're going to see substantial reductions in other budgets across the district office team. So certainly, as Mike shared, when we have opportunities, we're always looking at how do we best serve the needs in a fiscally responsive way, and we think we've done that. Our top budget categories, obviously, when you're talking about our department, most of it's going to be in salary and benefits. Our next highest line item is the contract services, and those include things like CipherWorks, which holds all of our, it's our warehouse for professional development, for our mandatory training for all employees. It's also where our employee assistance program comes into place. Every year we have about 50 people that utilize that service. It's a free service, it's confidential, and employees can use that for personal information and needs, as well as professional. If they have any areas of concern or they're dealing with a crisis, they can go to EAP and get confidential information and support that way. We also, that budget line is also for the mandatory fingerprinting for all new employees. So we do reimburse employees after they've worked with us for a week. We do reimburse the cost. It's a little over $100 for that per employee. We're continuing with the Teacher Fellow program. We love the program. We wish we had more numbers. We've had, this past fall, we had 1 Teacher Fellow. We have 1 Teacher Fellow for the spring, which is, unfortunately a decreasing trend. When we first started the program, and Shana will remember, we had almost 1 per building. But it's still a valued service for the buildings that can have that. We also have the administrator mentor stipend, so compensating administrators in the district for mentoring. The supply budget, our interview committee, when we hold large group interviews, we do those off-site, and there is a slight cost to that, and then our BOCES services. So for retirements, we do have some retirements this year, and the incentive, I think, certainly did help with that. So you see the numbers here and how that breaks down. The real question is with that breakage, and that's the difference between what we're paying current employees and what we would pay people as replacements. We're looking at about a $600,000 in salary savings, approximately. I'll dig into our elementary projections a little bit. You'll see from our 2024 to 2025 this year sections versus projected sections. So you see how that fluctuates a little bit. We do look very critically at those numbers. Part of it obviously is driven by the contract. We have planning numbers that we have to use and stick with. But those planning numbers right now, how they look, there are what we call bubble sections, and those are sections that either have no seats available for planning numbers, and if we add another student or 2, we would increase sections. But we also have the opposite, where we have the planning numbers such where there's so many available seats that if 1 or 2 students leave that building, then we would actually see a reduction in that section. So it kind of can play both ways. When we look at the sections over 5 years, I'd just like to highlight 2020 to 2021. It seems like more and more we're getting past the COVID years, but those are the sections when we had in-person and we had remote sections, so that's why the numbers were so high. But as you look over the last 4 years, it's fairly stable. And I remember last year I was projecting up to maybe 118 sections, and we ended up at 115. So again, there's a little bit of fluctuation. We're looking at 114 for this year, and a potential to increase up to 118. So an additional 4 sections looking at it. And working with the business office, just being able to budget accordingly for the case of 118. So with middle school and the high school sectioning, middle school is very predictable because they use the teaming model, so we can really be very status quo as far as that goes. Secondary staffing it's interesting because we always look at, with secondary, it's how the students are enrolling in classes, how those change over the course of the spring and even into the summer, and then making adjustments by that. So it's a little more difficult to predict that way, but we certainly look at how are we going to staff and making sure that message is clear that we really can't add things in these fiscal times. We have to get really serious about what we're offering and making sure that we have good quality programs in place, but we're doing it in a way where we're trying to maximize those class sizes too. We still see some staffing impacts in technology. Secondary special education is another area that's challenging. science and math as well. For hiring for this school year, some administrative hires, new principal at Allen Creek, new principal at Mendon Center, assistant principal at Mendon Center, business officials, and then we're currently in the process of hiring a principal for Barker Road Middle School. That's going very well. Certificated staff, we've brought in a number of people. Regular substitutes, those are substitute teachers that are covering for a semester or more. 30 school-related professionals, our SRPs, and then the 54 support staff. So our areas of focus, I shared a little bit about this already. Science, technology, special education. Technology is an interesting one. There's really 2 programs in the state that actually offer this program for schools. So there's not a lot of higher education that are putting out these new teachers. So all districts are struggling with that. But science and special education continue to be an area of focus and need. Support staff, this is definitely, I would say, statewide and even nationally, there are shortages with bus drivers, with monitors, our support staff in food service, custodial workers, school aides, and safety and security personnel. Just a little bit about contract negotiations. This year's been fairly easy as far as that goes. There's no contracts that are open for this school year. So we're labor peace as far as that is concerned. Looking ahead to 2025 to 2026, we're going to be opening up with our bus drivers and attendants. We have our maintenance, custodial, and transportation, and then we have our food services. So we will be looking at those next year. So that's what I wanted to share, and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Good evening, all. Good evening. We're all so excited. Welcome to our Pittsford Central School District meeting, Board of Education meeting. I would like to ask you to please join us in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second. Thank you. All in favor? None opposed. The ayes have it. Thank you. Next, we will have Superintendent Hero to speak about Pittsford Pride.
I am so happy we all have our priorities straight, because when you were waiting out in the hall, we were doing our budget workshop. So you were really smart just to hang out there and hang out with all your family and friends. And so welcome. And this is our favorite night of the year, one of our favorite nights of the year, to support and champion our students who truly make a difference in the lives of others. And the students that are here tonight are the students that we value so much as they add so much significance to the lives of their peers and others in their school community. So I would like to thank our principals, our nominating staff members, our family, friends, and special guests for being here tonight. And most importantly, I want to thank all of those that are being acknowledged this evening. Tonight's ceremony will be shared on the district website and on our YouTube channel. We're working on a few TikToks after this. We're trying to get it like really big after tonight, but that's where it is. The Pittsford Pride recognition that you're all here for is so special. In Pittsford, we have about 6,000 students, and this year, 27 of 6,000 will be recognized. So to put that in perspective, The students that are here this evening are really the students that have gone out of their way to really make a difference. And from the Board of Education to myself, to the administrators, to the teachers, to the support staff, the students that are here tonight really make the lives of others better because of them. So I not only want to thank the recipients, but thank those that are with them tonight. Here's how tonight came to fruition. Each child is here tonight to be recognized based on support and information from the building. So we ask our building administrators to talk about with their staff which students exemplify citizenship. And ask them all to nominate students about why they should be recognized tonight and why they should be recognized this year. And a building level committee is convened, and then they go through a real painstaking process to discuss which of the students that are recommended should be here. It's amazing. So that. Hats off to all of our students that are here tonight, because you went through a rigorous process. Beyond tonight's recognition, students will be recognized different ways beyond tonight and based on each building. So there's a range of things that can happen. You may find your names on the bulletin board. You may hear yourself on the morning announcements for being recognized. Your name may be on a plaque, or working with a principal to decide on a special privilege. You may have gifts ranging from free time to parking passes, depending on your grade level. Spiritware, you may be asked to be a class helper. You may be asked to be a speaker to other classes. But we want to really take advantage of your leadership and acknowledge it in a lot of different ways. So can I just have the recipients raise your hand really quick that are here tonight? Okay. Well, yes, give them a round of applause, please. So the small print in this, and I really apologize, we need to do a better job advertising this, and I truly am sorry. Elementary and middle school students, your guardians, parents, right after this have to take you out for ice cream and or dinner of your choice or an amusement park. High school parents, you are now obligated for a vehicle for your student. And we'll just continue that every year. So as far as tonight's process is concerned, as each student's name is called, we're going to ask you to please stand while we read the wonderful words that are said about you. And then when all 9 recognitions have been read, students will collect their frames that are back there and proceed to stand behind the Board of Education members, and we'll take a picture with our district photographer. And then family and friends and anyone else that's here can snap as many photos as they like. And to get through that process, our board president, Robin Scott, will read the first 3 recipients, followed by Sarah Pelucio, our vice president, the next 3, and then I will read the following 3. And it is my pleasure to start this program by introducing our president, Robin Scott, and recognizing our 9 recipients.
Thank you so much. We are so proud of all of our students this evening. And I would like to begin with a student from Coggins Road Middle School. And I believe she's present, Isabella Ajay. Isabella is in the 8th grade. And she was nominated by Miss Petty, Mrs. Sagar, Mrs. Kailborn, Mr. Walker, and more. And this is what they had to say about you, Isabella. We are excited to recommend Izzy for the Pittsford Pride Award. Izzy stands out as a compassionate and as dedicated student, excelling both academically and socially. Her academic journey showcases resilience and determination, consistently putting in commendable effort to achieve her ambitious goals. Izzy approaches challenges with rare tenacity and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Socially, Izzy is a role model who embodies empathy and consideration. She always takes others' feelings into account, making her a beloved friend and peer. Her willingness to work with others highlights her accommodating spirit and steadfast morals, inspiring those around her. Izzy's proactive nature shines through her extracurricular activities. Starting in 6th grade, she set goals to be more involved, joined the cheer squad by 7th grade, and took a role in the school musical Annie in 8th grade. Her self-advocacy and drive make her truly remarkable. Over the past 3 years, Izzy has shown incredible personal growth. Her hard work, perseverance, and creative talents bring joy to everyone around her. She makes our community better with her kindness, loyalty, and positive outlook. The word that all of her teachers universally used to describe her was joyful. It is our honor to recommend Izzy for this prestigious recognition, celebrating her remarkable character and achievements. She is a model of what we want our students to be, and we are very proud of her. Congratulations, Izzy. Thank you. Next, we are recognizing Hazel Aurora. Hazel is a 9th grader at Sutherland High School, and she was nominated by the Library and Admin Department of Mrs. Holohan and Mr. Puma. This is why you were nominated. Hazel Aurora is a 9th grade student at Sutherland High School whose exemplary citizenship makes her an ideal recipient of the Pittsford Pride Award. Hazel's positive impact on our school community is remarkable, even as a freshman. She exemplifies kindness, leadership, and self-awareness, core qualities of a good citizen. Hazel consistently offers to assist in the classroom, is often the first to raise her hand, and asks insightful questions that foster more engaging and inclusive learning environments. As one teacher puts it, quote, "She comes to class every day positive and happy. She is never judgmental toward others and looks for reasons to praise others on their accomplishments," unquote. Hazel's contributions extend far beyond the classroom. She has recently founded the Sutherland High School Voices Podcast Club, demonstrating her creativity, leadership, orientation towards teamwork, and interest in furthering the voices of her peers. Although the club has yet to hold its first meeting, Hazel has already positioned it for success by fostering excitement and collaboration. She is also a valued member of the library's reading club, where her love of literature inspires her peers. Hazel contributes to the school newspaper, The Lance, using her entrepreneurial spirit, again, to amplify student voices. In addition, Hazel reads the morning announcements, bringing energy and positivity to the start of each day, and engages in volunteer work outside of school, exemplifying her commitment to community betterment. Hazel's teachers universally praise her for her kindness, enthusiasm, and generosity of spirit, with one of them noting that she brings 110% positive and upbeat energy to class every day, while another highlighted her ability to be a great peer tutor and her friendliness toward all students. Her hardworking and optimistic nature radiates throughout our school, making her a role model for her peers. Hazel's natural ability to create a sense of belonging, her consistent efforts to lift others up, and her willingness to take initiative make her a standout member of our school community. Congratulations, Hazel. And now I'd like to ask Ariana Canola to stand. Thank you. Ariana is a 12th grader at Minden High School, and she was nominated by Sarah Nazarian. She was nominated for this reason. Ariana Canola is an exceptional student and a contributing member of Minden's community. Passionate, independent, and a strong advocate, she continues to make Minden a better place since joining us as a freshman. Ari is an active participant in class who has a genuine love of learning, discussion, and exploration. Outside the classroom, she is deeply involved with Minden's theater program and productions and our music program. In addition, Ari is an active Girl Scout, currently working to achieve her Gold Award, the highest rank a Girl Scout can earn. It's wonderful. In and out of school, Ari is extremely busy and community-minded while continuing to do her best, be her best, and make a difference in the life of others. Ms. Nazarian shared, quote, "In my experience with Ari, though she has been a fierce advocate for the LGBTQ+ community, she's been an active member of Minden's Girl Scouts, GSA, of which I'm the advisor since she came to Minden. An outspoken voice for LGBTQ+ students, Ari has spoken at combined GSA meetings with Barker Road and inspired younger students while serving as an important role model. In addition, Ari presented to our faculty last spring on terms, language, and perspective of our students in our classrooms every day. Further, Ari began a segment on Minden's morning announcements call, Spread the Color, where she educates the whole school about history, celebrations, and contributions of LGBTQ+ community members. Ari is a strong leader, and her bravery and activism has paved the way for other Minden students. Most importantly, Ari is a sincere, enthusiastic, and always genuinely joyous member of Minden's community. Her excitement for life and kindness for everyone is truly infectious. In all, Minden High School is a better place with Ari here, and her impact will have lasting positive effects for years to come. Minden High School is proud to select Ariana Canola as our Winter Pittsford Pride recipient. Join me. Thank you. And the next voice you hear will be that of Sarah Pelucio, our board vice president.
Thank you, Robin. Up first on my list, I have Hannah Kulia. Could you stand, please, Hannah? Hi, Hannah. Hannah has been nominated by the Red Team at Barker Road, where she is a 7th grader. We are lucky to have Hannah on the Red Team this year. She is a well-rounded young person. Hannah stands out in all of our classes, not just for her academic abilities, but for how she represents all of the Barker Road core principles. She is friendly and kind to everyone. She is willing to work with any peer and is respectful of that person. When a classmate may be struggling, Hannah helps them along without hesitation. She does not just give answers, but encourages them without making them feel less than. Hannah is a natural leader. She is not afraid to speak up and be an upstander. These are some of the many reasons why Hannah was picked to be a web leader as a 7th grader. Hannah demonstrates responsibility in many ways. We can always count on her to have her work done and be prepared for assessments. She is a strong self-advocate, asking for work ahead of time when she has to be absent. Hannah is a regular participant in class, asking and answering questions. She is open-minded and willingly accepts challenges. She is receptive to constructive feedback. Hannah takes advantage of extracurricular opportunities and excels out of the classroom as well. She is a member of the JV tennis team this past fall as a 7th grader. Along with sharing her musical abilities in orchestra and chorus, Hannah also participates in select chorus and is playing the role of Countess Ipatova? Ippolitov, thank you for correcting me, in the upcoming production of Anastasia. Hannah is an avid reader. She was able to attend the Newberry Club field trip to the Rundell Memorial Library for the Newberry Symposium to discuss books with students from other districts. Hannah also makes an appearance on the Morning Bark, reading announcements to inform students of what's happening at Barker Road. Hannah is an outstanding young person and well-deserving of this recognition. Congratulations. Next on my list, I have Emma McCracken. Emma is a fifth grader at Menon Center, and she was nominated by Mrs. Higgins. It is our pleasure to nominate Emma McCracken, a fifth grader at Menon Center, for the Pittsford Pride Award. Emma is a shining example of the core values and principles we strive to instill in our students at Pittsford schools. She is welcoming, caring, inclusive, and finds joy in all she does during the school day and during activities beyond the school day. Emma is a role model and leader for her peers. She is willing to work with any of her classmates and warmly welcomes them when doing so. Recently, our class welcomed a new student. Emma immediately became a supportive classmate for this child. They established an instant and genuine connection, and Emma has continued to guide her new classmate as she acclimates to her new school environment. When I asked the student how she felt about her first week at MCE, she immediately responded, "It was so good, and Emma is amazing." Emma shines as a role model and positive school citizen. She is an active member of MCE Mart, which sells items to the student body in the mornings. Emma fulfills her duty with great responsibility and dedication. She independently keeps track of her assigned duties, is punctual, and serves the student body in a kind and warm manner. Additionally, Emma can often be found helping around the school in a variety of ways. She often holds the foyer doors open at dismissal for all grade levels exiting. She asks the adults in the classroom if she can help with tasks, and she is the most caring and patient person with our youngest learners. Once a week, our class partners with the kindergarten class as buddies. Emma enthusiastically looks forward to this part of our weekly routine and thrives in this environment, helping and leading younger students. Outside of our school walls, Emma is a dedicated cheerleader in the Pittsford Junior Panthers cheer program. We are incredibly proud of Emma's leadership and flexibility. Emma is enthusiastically willing to assist at clinics with primary-aged cheerleaders. Emma's joy for learning and natural tendency to care for others truly stands out. She approaches each day with optimism, kindness, and compassion. We are so proud to have Emma at Menon Center. We know she will continue to embody the core values and principles of Pittsford schools for years to come. Congratulations. Theo Osborne. Are you here, Theo? Hello. Theo is a fourth grader at Jefferson Road. And Theo, you've been nominated by Ms. Kane. Theo Osborne is one of the most thoughtful, kind, and polite students that I have ever had the pleasure to teach. There is not a day that goes by where he does not walk through the doors ready to be a role model to all at JRE. Theo is a wonderful peer to his classmates. He is inclusive, sweet, and sincere to all. He appreciates making the classroom a welcoming, warm environment and often volunteers to help decorate for the different seasons and events celebrated in our room. His genuine happiness and excitement for the simple things in life is truly a gift. On our 50th day of school, after having a root beer float, he approached me with the biggest smile saying how delightful it was and thanking me. On another occasion, he showed up to school wearing silly socks and with such enthusiasm showed them off and shared how they were a gift he got in his stocking. Recently, he entered the classroom holding his Bills hoodie up, chanting, "Go Bills," knowing that our class was excited for an upcoming game. Each day, he brings this kind of joy to our lessons and classroom environment. Theo is an honest and hard-working student. His work is always done diligently with his best effort. He was one of the few who took time out of the winter break to complete the winter break challenge I assigned as optional work. He loves math, independent reading, and art, where he gets the opportunity to show off his creative side, something he is proud of. In addition to being dedicated to school, he is involved in chorus, Odyssey of the Mind, and part of the YMCA Shark swim team. He is a student that can always count on to follow our classroom compact and rely on to make positive choices throughout the day. At JRE, we say, be our best, do our best, and make a difference in the lives of others. Theo embodies this saying. I'm lucky to have a student like Theo in my classroom each day. And now we'll welcome back Mr. Pero.
Just a quick reflection piece. As I listen to all of the great words from our students, I think about how hard life can be at any given time and how we all need support and how important that support is. And it's our students that are out here, your children, your grandchildren, that are here tonight that are providing that support for others. So it's really a special night, and I can't thank you enough for who you are as recipients and for who you are for raising these wonderful children. My next person is Owen Pelucio, grade 4, Allen Creek Elementary, nominated by Miss Hallett. How you doing, Owen? You doing all right? And it's weird standing in front of all these people, right? Okay, you deserve it. It is an honor and a privilege to nominate Owen Pelucio for the Pittsford Pride Award. Owen, you exemplify many character traits necessary of such a prestigious award, including the 4 ACEs traits of accepting, being cooperative, empathetic, and supportive. While at school, you lead by example. You offer your insight in whole class instruction, you work well in groups, and you go out of your way to help each other make those better around you. Some examples of this include entering the classroom daily with a smile, saying good morning as you walk past your peers, offering a hand when someone is having difficulty, and being an active member of our Best Buddies program. Owen is able to put himself in other classmates' shoes and anticipate their areas of difficulty. He is able to provide his peers with support and encouragement in a non-judgmental way. Within our classroom community, we have 4 students that are part of our ENL program, 2 of whom require additional academic support throughout the day. No matter what the academic area, Owen makes sure he is always within a close proximity to these students so he can support them in any way they may need. A few examples from this year include removing himself from a group of friends to work with these 2 students to support reading a higher level passage, pulling up a stool next to them at the back table to help read math word problems, and helping them study for social studies quizzes during win time. I often overhear him say, "Great job," and "You're really close. Try again," followed by the biggest smile when he sees their success. These are just a few examples of Owen's empathy and compassion for his fellow classmates and his dedication to making those around him feel successful on a daily basis. Owen, thank you for being you. Your classmates and I are so fortunate to spend this year with you. Everyone at Allen Creek is so proud of you and your accomplishments. Continue to be the role model you are. Congratulations. Could you imagine if the world were all these kids? I mean, listening to these words, holy cow, amazing. I wouldn't have a job, though. Okay. Next, being nominated is Jordan Scheider, grade 5, Thornell Road Elementary. Mrs. Ottavino, Mrs. Ina, Miss Engler, and Miss Guile nominated you. That's a lot of people. You must be really good. Are you ready for this? Okay. We happily nominate Jordan for the Pittsford Pride Award as a wonderful representative for Thornell Road Elementary. Jordan is a role model example of living our Thornell Road way inside and outside our school. In all areas, Jordan is friendly, he's personable, respectful, and always looks out for others. His leadership style is based on doing the right thing, recognizing people's strengths, supporting with kindness, and he's consistent and dependable. We are very happy to share some of the specific ways Jordan positively impacts our community. Jordan is a leader around our school, in the classroom, and outside of school in a variety of activities. As the safety patroller advisor, Mrs. Ottavino has seen firsthand the impact Jordan has had on our school and the safety of our program. First, he enthusiastically applied to be a safety. When asked, Jordan said he simply saw it as an opportunity to help. Once appointed, he was placed in the second grade hallway. Ooh, that's a tough hallway. Wow, for your first job, second grade? Whew. In the afternoons, where our walkers and bikers are dismissed. This high-traffic area might be a chaotic spot, but with Jordan's calm and friendly attitude, he helps keep students safe. When another safety is absent, Jordan will stop by the library to see if he can fill in. Staff members always mention how impressed they are by Jordan in this role. He takes the time to learn the name of every student and staff who passes by. He connects with everyone through a hello, a wave, a high five, or a handshake. He was especially recognized by Mrs. Engler, our K-12 developmental program teacher, on the connections he made with students in her classroom. Knowing that some of her students are nonverbal, Jordan found ways to greet each of the students in an individual way, through a wave, a high five, a fist bump, or even a greeting by name. In the classroom, Jordan excels academically and is a trusted classmate. He is also very active in our Pittsford community. He participates in the Pittsford Youth Football Program, ski club. He's an avid soccer player and plays trumpet in the school band. He is always smiling, and his positive attitude is contagious. He is a student that truly puts others before himself and always does the right thing, even when it can be hard. We so appreciate Jordan's hard work, leadership, and care for others, and think that he serves as an excellent representative of our Thornell Road Elementary School. Congratulations. And next and last, we have Ling Zhen, Park Road, grade 5. Nominated as the best dresser of the evening by Mrs. Day, Mrs. Searle, Mr. Ford, Mrs. Kirkby, and Mrs. Rojas. Holy cow. You are looking good tonight. There we go. I can think of no one more deserving of the Pittsford pride than Ling. His remarkable combination of academic ability and personal integrity has made him an exemplary student and a role model for your peers. He works well with other students and is always willing to lend a hand if someone needs help. Ling is mindful of school safety guidelines, sets an example on 5th grade safety patrol. He takes his responsibility on safety patrol very seriously. He helps with dismissal, making sure students stay calm and quiet enough to hear their names called. He always offers a greeting to everyone who walks past his safety patrol post, telling them to have a nice day, or asking them how are they doing today. He is the kindest older brother, consistently checking in with his younger sister and helping her get to her classroom the first few weeks of school. Is your younger sister here? Okay. I just want to make sure this is accurate. Do you really do that? Lang, do you do that? Okay, good. Over the course of the school year, Lang has consistently demonstrated an exceptional work ethic, remarkable character, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. He goes above and beyond, exceeding expectations. His dedication to his studies is evident in every assignment, project, and class participation. He is extremely imaginative and shows great attention to detail and craftsmanship. This also goes beyond the classroom, where he serves as the media specialist for our student council, an active member of the 5th grade orchestra and the 5th grade chorus. What truly sets Ling apart is his character. He is confident, he is strong, but never at the expense of kindness and empathy. His positive attitude and smile brighten up the classroom each day, creating an atmosphere of warmth and positivity. Ling also demonstrates a remarkable willingness to share his culture and experiences with others, One of the most memorable moments was when he took the time to educate his peers about Lunar New Year. His thoughtful sharing not only helped his classmates learn, but also fostered a sense of inclusivity and respect for diverse traditions. In all that he does, Ling embodies the qualities we strive to encourage in our students: excellence, empathy, and kindness. I can think of no one more deserving of the Pittsford Pride Award than Ling. His academic ability and personal integrity make him an exemplary student and a role model for his peers. Congratulations. On behalf of all the amazing students we have, I say we cancel our board meeting tonight, if it's okay with the board. I would just ask our 9 recipients to stand up, please. And if you could look at me, I want to see your eyes. I want to see all of your eyeballs. And just say thank you 9 times for making our school district the place that we are and providing the support, the leadership, the guidance, the empathy, the kindness that we all need so much. Love you all. Congratulations. And now we're going to move on to our pictures and ceremony. So if you could go, actually, let's give them a round of applause first. You're amazing. If you could grab your letters back there and your plaques, and we're going to go around back behind the board. And is our district photographer here tonight? Okay, she's going to take 5,000, literally 5,000 pictures all at once. So let's go ahead and make our way back behind the Board of Education. Parents, guardians, family members, you're happy to take as many photos as you'd like.
We will now resume our business meeting. And we are at Board of Education reports. And there's, several committees that we are involved with at Monroe County School Boards Association. But we will hear at this time from our legislative chair and also our vice president, Sarah Pelucio.
Thanks, Robin. I just wanted to share really quick the legislative breakfast that we had over the weekend. Thank you to everyone who was able to attend. It was a really great event, our biggest yet. And we had 16 of our legislators there, as well as our Board of Regents and the representative from the governor's office and our federal representatives as well, and then over 100 of our school board members from across the county. It was a great event, a lot of great conversations. We are still working through the notes of that and getting ready to plan our next steps for our trip to Albany in March. And I think I'm going to leave it there. I'll have a more detailed report at our next meeting.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We appreciate all that you do for Monroe County. You represent us well. Thank you so much. Dates to remember. February 13th will be a board visit at our district office at 8 o'clock. By a show of hands, let me see who can attend. Okay. Well, thank you very much. February 17th through 21, our schools are closed for President's Week recess. And February 25th is our next regularly scheduled meeting. Next, we will hear from Mr. Vespi, our financial reports.
All right, thank you very much. First for your consideration is the acceptance of the December Treasurer's Report. So we did receive some excess costs and some state aids. I think overall, as I previously mentioned, we continue to excel at interest earnings. So you see a big jump in the revenues there, and halfway through the year, we've earned about $1.3 million in interest earnings. So that continues to really be a revenue highlight. Again, as previously discussed, that's an area that we're able to increase our overall budget. School lunch had a little bit of a down month in December, which is typical with the number of servings days and then recharging inventory. That concludes my report.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report from December 31, 2024? Thank you. Are there questions? Hearing none. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
All right, next for your consideration is the purchase of 2 vehicles. and a transfer request to do so from the maintenance budget into the custodial budget. And that's necessary as part of our vehicle replacement plan for a plow truck and then a flatbed salt truck.
May I have a motion to accept the budget transfer request of OMS purchase of 2 vehicles? Are there questions? Hearing none, all in favor? And the ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Next for your consideration is a field use agreement between Pittsford School District and the town of Pittsford. As you see in the summary memo, this goes back to an agreement that was reached in 2015 and needs to be renewed on a 10-year basis, where the district works collaboratively with the town and then replenishes a turf maintenance field. This is an outstanding example, especially in these fiscal times, of how you can work collaboratively with other local municipalities for a benefit for our students. So for your consideration is the approval of this agreement for both board authorization and for authorization of Mr. Pero to re-sign that field use agreement.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the field use agreement between PCSD and the town of Pittsford? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you.
And finally, on the consent agenda is your consideration of the bid awards as outlined in the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Vespi. Next, we'll have our human resource report from Mr. Clark.
Thank you. For your consideration is the professional staff report. We have 1 change in status from probationary to tenure, 2 regular substitute appointments, 1 revision of status from regular substitute to part-time, 3 school-related professional appointments, 1 certificated staff resignation, 2 school-related professional resignations, 3 building substitute appointments, and per diem substitute appointments.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the professional staff report? Questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Yes, have it, thank you.
Thank you. And next for your consideration, we have the support staff report. We have 2 clerical resignations, 1 clerical resignation for retirement, 1 transportation termination, 2 food service appointments, and 1 food service resignation.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the support staff report?
Second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Thank you. Next for your consideration, we have 2 positions that we are requesting approval for. I'll give you a little bit of background. In the fall, BOCES put us on notice, and other districts as well, regarding the inability to continue supporting full-time occupational and physical therapists. The rationale being BOCES is a shared service, and they're not designed to house 1.0 FTEs in any district, because again, all districts are putting into that service, so for a school district to have a 1.0, that's not what they're designed for. So we've had meetings, and currently we have 6 occupational therapists, and we have 2 full-time physical therapists with a need for a 3rd. The goal will be for us to slowly transition to picking up those full-time positions, and what we're looking for next school year is hiring 1 of each. So 1 occupational therapist, 1 physical therapist, and then we would slowly cascade that until we have all of our full-time staff over the next few years. So salaries will be staff neutral. What we're currently paying BOCES to what we would be picking up would be neutral cost to us. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. May I have a motion to accept the occupational therapist position? Are there questions for Mr. Clark?
Really quick, will these positions be floating around from building to building? Will they be housed in specific buildings or just where the need is?
It will shift depending on need, because those are really driven by individualized education plans. So there are certain buildings that have, and Elizabeth might be able to speak more directly to exactly where people are. But it would be probably shared across buildings as needed, or if a building has a significant number, we would have full-time people in one building. Clearly, we have more occupational therapists because we have more student needs in those areas. So there might be buildings with higher need that have the 1.0, but mostly it'd be shared. Physical therapists, obviously with the numbers that we have, would be more shared. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor? The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next, we would like to entertain a motion for the physical therapist position. Okay, no questions? Hearing none, all in favor? None opposed, thank you. Next, we will have our special education report. Ms. Woods.
Good evening. The Committee on Special Education recommendations are on the consent agenda.
Thank you so much. And from there, we have superintendent's report. Mr. Barrow.
Good evening. There will be a need for an executive session with the board to discuss a personnel issue.
So is there a motion to accept the executive, call for executive session? Okay, all in favor? Ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Barrow.
We have, for your consideration, a field trip to Myrtle Beach for our Menden High School baseball team.
May I have a motion to accept the Menden High School baseball trip to Myrtle Beach? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
And for the sake of equity, for your consideration, we have the field trip approval to Myrtle Beach for Sutherland High School baseball.
May I have a motion to approve that field trip to Myrtle Beach? Okay, all in favor? None opposed. Thank you.
And also for your consideration is the approval of the 25-26 school year calendar. Of note, we have moved our conference day in October to make sure that we can acknowledge Diwali for our students and their families. So students will not be in school that day. We will also be acknowledging Yom Kippur.
Thank you.
For your consideration.
Thank you. So is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry.
Good news about the holidays. Well, we have seniors here. Should you tell them the good news about the potential good news of Christmas break next year?
That's exciting.
It's very exciting.
I think they're all seniors, so. But anyways, so for the seniors, we're having 4 weeks off next year. 2 weeks off in the calendar. I'm sorry.
So is there a motion to approve the 2025-2026 school calendar year?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? None opposed, thank you.
And also just would like to acknowledge that this month is our Black History Month across our nation, consisting of the rich history, achievements, and contribution of Black individuals throughout our history. We look forward to reflecting on the progress we've made, recognizing the work that's still ahead of us, and committing to a more inclusive future for all. So it's an exciting month for us, and we'll see that throughout our 9 buildings. And then the last thing I would share is that it's been kind of quiet. Within the governor's proposal is it's not a request, it's pretty much an executive order, that there will be a distraction-free environment for students in grades K through 12, which means, should this go through, that students are, the schools need to figure out a way to not have students be distracted by their cell phones, iPhones, etc. So it is the board's job along with our administrators and teachers and parents to figure out what that's going to look like for us. And so I feel that probably the next best step for us will be to have an opportunity for parents to share what they think they should look like, and that will probably be in one of our power hours coming up in the spring, along with working with our administrators, teachers, and board members, soliciting that feedback. And then we will implement what that distraction-free environment will look like in application. Other than that, for your wonderful reading, we have policy recommendation, information security and program for your consideration for our next meeting. So with that, I offer any questions for anyone? Please.
About the policy.
Yeah.
So as I looked at it, it just looks like it's just updating language, adding, there's the section that added A through Q. Is that just more to address the specific needs?
Jeff, do you want to answer that?
Good evening. So you're absolutely right. The first paragraph really represents the changes in personnel, both outside and inside the district relative to our titles. What really the meat of this is A through Q is almost verbatim statements from New York State Education Department requirements. So that's changed in the last 3 years, and so we've thought it would be prudent to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next we will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Yes. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Thank you so much. So is there any old business? Okay. Any new business? And next we will have public comment. I would like to ask Meredith Graham to come forward. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for taking my comment. My name is Meredith Graham. I live at Northfield Gate. 2 incredible instructional challenge teachers at the elementary level are retiring this year. The Quest parent group is advocating not only to replace those 2 teachers, but also for 2 additional full-time instructional challenge teachers. This will enable each elementary and middle school to have a full-time IC teacher as they used to years ago. It will improve Pittsford's ability to provide needed services for high ability and twice exceptional 2E students, consultations and best practices for teachers, and consistently provide a voice for this often misunderstood and overlooked population. Thank you for the middle school IC teacher hired in 2022. Our middle schoolers long suffered without IC support, so it is a fantastic first step. Still, it's an enormous job for one person. This lone teacher manages a huge caseload and must divide their time between 2 buildings. Years ago, Pittsford had 2 middle school IC teachers. Penfield Middle School has 3. Pittsford middle schoolers are certainly worthy of similar support. High ability students' social emotional needs are intertwined with their intellectual needs. These atypical learners require specialized services from trained professionals. Without it, they experience increased stress and distress. When they aren't adequately challenged, it can lead to decreased engagement, poor self-image, behavioral challenges, frustration, and despair. Mental health-wise, these students often sense and feel things more deeply. When schools meet their academic and intellectual needs, it helps lower the risk of depression and suicide. Most teachers receive little to no training in gifted education, plus the typical classroom includes students spanning 3 to 7 grade levels of mastery, or sometimes more. Providing equitable access to IC staff benefits teachers and students. IC staff can collaborate with teachers on resources and strategies to help meet the unique needs of high ability and 2E students. These students can also be pulled out to work with IC staff, enabling teachers to provide additional help for struggling students. Having full-time IC staff at every elementary and middle school helps ease the pressure on teachers. We realize what is at stake this year with the budget shortfall. Providing equitable IC support aligns perfectly with Pittsford's mission and values. Replacing the 2 teachers who are retiring and also adding 2 full-time IC teachers will help ensure that academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs of all students are met. Thank you so much for taking my comment. And I'd just like to ask those who are here with me to stand just to give support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Can I just add really super quick?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Meredith. I don't know what a year would be like without your wonderful advocacy for something or another. You're terrific. I know that speaking with both of you earlier this fall, what I shared is that I know that the board would certainly not approve not replacing the 2 Project Challenge teachers that we have retiring. So I will share that at minimum during this budget crisis that will be certainly reinstated. So thank you both, and also everything that you say I agree with. It's not a disagreement. I think what you said was beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And now, may I have a motion for adjournment? All in favor? Thank you. Guys have it.
Any students need a signature? Come on up. Dylan, come on.